the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I
Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw! Okay, let me take you back, because this is going to be the announcement video.
Sure. There we go.
Granbury Texas, what an exciting month February is as we charge full speed ahead into the March primaries. True Texas Project has a full agenda for you, so make sure you don't miss a thing.
Since we know many of you watch these announcements at home before any of our in-person monthly meetings even start, we'll go ahead and include a reminder about our TTP Day of Action on Saturday, February 7th. True Texans all across Texas will be out in force, knocking doors, making calls, stuffing envelopes for our preferred candidates. You can find an event near you on our website calendar. If you haven't done anything to help elect a good representative, now is the time to step up before it's too late.
That's right, Fran. We want to be sure we leave no stone unturned. This is a good time to remind everyone that we have nearly 200 counties listed now on our website voting recommendations. So please direct your friends and family to our page when they ask you, how should they vote? You don't have to agree with all of our choices, but it is an excellent starting point to complete your own list.
As if we didn't have enough going on in February with elections, we're also now got our Year of the Patriot Conference happening. The winter weather of January forced us to move the date, so if you haven't signed up yet, make sure you do. It happens on Valentine's Day in the Woodlands, which is near Houston. If you're watching this video and the event has already happened, make sure you go to our YouTube channel to watch the recordings of the amazing speakers that we've got lined up for you.
Well, we are already planning for our second Year of the Patriot Conference, which will be held this summer in the DFW area. So watch for that. But probably the most exciting news we have is announcing our 2026 Texas Tough Gala. Every year we host a big party to celebrate victory in San Jacinto, the day Texians defeated Santa Ana and won Texas her independence. Check out this video to hear a little bit more. Hello, True Texans. Fran and I are excited to be hosting our 2026 Texas Tough Gala.
This year, we're doing things a little bit differently. We've spent the past year hosting amazing speakers at our monthly meetings, bringing in guest speakers at social events, and even featuring expert speakers at a conference. So, for our gala, we made a big decision. No speakers!
That's right. When we say we're throwing a party, we mean it. This year's Texas Tough Gala will be a party like never before. We're bringing you a throwback comedy and musical review, just like, well, have you ever heard of Hee Haw?
How fun is that? We're also treating you to a county fair. Before and after the main dinner and entertainment, you'll have a chance to walk through the grounds, visit with other patriots, vote on your favorite peach cobbler, play shootout games, create a souvenir embroidered handkerchief, get characters drawn of you and your friends, and even try your hand at bull riding.
Fran, it's going to be so much fun. And don't forget, our parties always include live music, dancing, shooting off cannons, and fireworks. It's going to be a night you will never forget, and you'll be so glad you were there.
Get your tickets now at truetexasproject.com/events. VIP tickets include all the county fair activities and preferred seating, or you can get a general admission ticket and choose your fair activities upon arrival. Whatever you choose, we'll see you there. I'm ready, Julie. How about you? I hope to see everyone in the stockyards on April 18th for the party of the year. Be sure to go to our website for tickets. I can't wait for the peach cobbler contest.
Oh yes, and I'm really looking forward to trying my hand at bull riding. But most of all, I can't wait to laugh and sing and dance with all of our True Texas friends.
Another chance we'll have to hang out with our true Texan friends is at the state GOP convention in June. But before you can go to that, you have to go first to your precinct convention. Those are held right after elections for the primary or the Saturday following. From there, you'll go to the Senate District Convention and then on to the state convention. If you don't know anything about this process, we have a video explaining it on our YouTube channel. Even if you've never been involved in GOP politics, we need you to be there. Start planning now by saving money for the travel to Houston and marking your calendar with the key dates.
Well, I told you we have a lot going on, and we haven't even mentioned the local elections. Deadline to file to run for school board and city council in many Texas municipalities is February 13th. If you aren't running, you need to be helping someone else who is. So, if you want to learn more about your local elections, be sure to ask your local TTP leadership team members tonight.
Julie, before we sign off,
Groups honor True Texas leaders in our home groups and our larger satellites. Thank you to all of you who show up and work hard to save Texas. We hope you have a great meeting.
bye-bye.
So, Nancy, this, you can do what you need, get yourself ready if you like. So while she's making herself ready, I'll go over some of the announcements. I'm sorry about how the mouse was not going with the video. Those are really great videos, and they work really hard. So now, Carrie, you know who Fran is. You see her face, and that was Julie, the blondest Julie. Powerhouses. Okay, so the Baptists are just around the corner. We had our prayer, we did our pledge and everything. And I want you to know there's a family that only is here, the Harper family. They got hit with COVID, and the wife is fully recovered, ready to go back to work, but the husband isn't. So that's Johnny. And I'll say a prayer right now because I did not earlier. And Father, I do lift up the Harper family, and I just pray for health and healing and restoration for both of them, full recovery in Jesus' name. Anyone else that's sick, amen. So we need to pass for the donation. So the way it works with True Texas is there is no fees. We donate. And you can set yourself up online for there's a basket. Take it over to this basket. And if you'll just pass it around, and just know that there are no fees, and come as you are. We just want you to be here. We want you to be involved. Okay? And then there are local primary elections going on right now here in Hood County. This group represents Cross Timbers, which is several other counties, Somerville being one of them, Johnson County, Comanche, Hood, of course, and Erath. Okay, Erath is Stephenville. Okay, so all those counties, this is their hub right here. And then, as she suggested, having home groups is a great option. There's a great thing going on in Weatherford right now. Okay, so I have with me tonight True Texas Project voter guides. And those can be printed offline on the computer. If you go to True Texas Project under elections, you'll find it. This one covers Erath, Somerville, Hood, and Johnson. And then it does statewide elections as well. So these are great little guides. You can take them with you to the polls. If anyone ever tries to tell you you can't take a piece of paper in there with you, it is not true. You can't have your phone on in there. And you can't have candidate papers with their pictures, but you can take things like this in. So definitely know that. The announcements, so will you hand everyone their announcement and a voter guide? Okay, so we know the March primaries are going on right now. And then she mentioned the Year of the Patriot Conference. David, were you going to go to that?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, that's when you were sick, right?
Sorry.
That's okay, it's okay. And then she's got the gala, or however you want to say it, going on, which sounds like a lot of fun. Remember the power of a home group, so if you're interested in starting one, you can certainly do that. And then the request is for donations. Okay, she mentioned school board, so here in Hood County, you cannot file for school board until this, I think it's August. And then they go for November. Okay, that's when they get elected is in November. And then the other key here is the state GOP convention. Did you go to that? Have you done it? You've gone to this your first time? Okay, we didn't go the last time it happened, but we had done so much work ahead.
As a delegate in San Antonio.
David went, and Hood County had 45 delegates with 25 backups, which is even more than Tarrant County sent, and we're dinky compared to Tarrant County. So that shows you the activity here. There is a strong group of conservatives rising up to go make a difference in Austin. Okay, and of course this one will be in Houston, and the local precinct convention will be announced soon, where it's going to be. Have you heard about that, David, where it will be?
Not sure.
Okay. Last time the room was so packed, I think they're going to have to get a bigger room. The room was literally packed. Okay, and that's when you learn about that grass level process, precinct chair all the way up.
It's March the 5th is the precinct level convention. I think the 28th is the county convention.
Okay, so here's what this paper says on the back of your things. It says the state one is in June 12th and 13th, and she mentioned Houston. And then you must attend your precinct convention, which is the one that they just mentioned. And then there you go to a Senate district convention on March 28th. And guarantee if you go to that precinct convention, that level, that first level, that's where you're going to find out who's who. And you'll see tables for each precinct with people around those tables, and you'll begin the who's who of our community. So like I said, last year it was quite the victory to get 45 delegates. There were 25 backups. It was amazing. And we have made great strides, I would say, as a community, getting our precinct chairs to be mostly true conservative Republicans. And that is like baseline. And the next thing is to get them where each one of their roles are fulfilled all the way where they have teams. So it's not one person trying to impact a precinct. It's neighbors and neighborhoods and streets and people who are block captains, that kind of thing. There's a plan to follow.
And we have a date for that?
No. Oh, David.
I saw Greg Harrell today, and Greg Harrell told me it's our county chairman.
Oh, good.
He said the 5th of March is going to be the precinct convention.
So
He said
March
the 28th
5th.
the 28th of March is going to be the county convention.
Okay, this says Senate District Convention, which may be called county also, I'm not sure, but it does say March 28th. So you said March, say one more time for the.
March 5th for the precinct convention, and then March 28th for the county convention.
Okay, and a location is not announced.
I forgot to ask.
That's okay.
Was that Kingdom Life Church last night?
Yes.
Where they host the Hood County Republican
Yes,
Party
yes,
meetings?
yes, yes.
I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So really quickly, I also have a list of volunteer roles for True Texas Project. I'm not going to read through all of them tonight, but I do have the paper so you can see it. So this is what we need to fill. And we are on the short side of volunteers right now. And a couple of other people signed up in the last couple of years.
And they have now stepped away. Okay, that's too loud. That's too loud, isn't it? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, we just got those 2 brand new mics and they're cordless, but you gotta have this plugged in, you gotta have this battered up.
We're learning. We have most of our ducks in a row, but a couple of them got out of it today. They got out of the order. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, no.
Your ducks are in a row, and no, they're not. Okay. Yeah, what's the deal with that? This is so old. I just tell you, and I'm going to introduce Nancy next, okay? I just want you to know where I feel and where my heart is on this. Jim and I were pillow talking last night about it's not a marathon. It's a, when I say, it's an obstacle. It's an obstacle course marathon.
It went on, yeah, that's okay. We'll get it figured
It's
out.
an obstacle course marathon. Okay. Okay. It's an obstacle course. And so, and I think one of our main messages to the public is, because people say to me, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, first of all, Holy Spirit, God, Jesus, Bible, prayer. I mean, that is it for me. That is how I do what I do. And I don't do it all that well. Some of it, I mean, I've got some areas that need some sanding. Okay, I need to be articulate even better, even more. And I know there's a scripture that says, he who wins souls is wise. Like if Nancy is going to get people to listen to her, give her all the wisdom she needs, or to be articulate, to get the message across in a way that they can understand, to motivate people to action. Same for you, right? To get your story out and to get to people, you need insight and wisdom to get it to the right people. And to get them encouraged and built up and lifted up so they will do something, right? And you know how it feels to feel like you're completely alone. Or look at all I did and this is what happened. And just the other day, we've had some losses lately. And that's why David and I almost every time we get together, and Jim, we talk about, what about the victories, the 45 delegates that win? What about most of our precinct chairs are strong Republican, okay? What about Kayla Lane over there in Godwin, how hard she pumps the pump, right? Melanie Graff, people like that who've been long-time conservative and they're still pumping the pump, they're still doing this. Or people like Dave Eagle, who's our precinct 4, who's running for precinct 4. He's gone to every convention, he's been involved in everything, he helps write policy, he really means it when he says he's a Republican, he knows what he says, and that's great. So, all that said, it's an obstacle course, but it's also a marathon. So it's long haul, right? With God, it's long haul. You want to be faithful from here all the way to the end. And then what do you do when the obstacles come? Because sometimes it means you have to stop. You're done on that. But sometimes it means just regroup, pray, think again. And someone said to me today, I said, there's a mountain right there, and you got to climb it, go around it. And then she said, and sometimes climb it, sometimes it's just that. Or somebody else comes in and does a work that's supporting what your work is. Or that's really great when the state legislature does something that literally supports students here at the lower level. Now, you get the lower level people to support what the state does, they just fight all the time between them. But anyway, so to have long haul, long-term legacy thinking, so that we don't grow weary, we don't give up, and we don't give in. And yet, we have space if you need a break, or if I need a break, right? You need rest, you need to restore. I've got a friend right now who's worked so hard that she's suffering right now with shingles. And she's like, the stress of it is the stress of that. It's been stressful. There's been a lot. And so I'm using scripture and everything, but one of them that I'm reminded of is the one that says you're supposed to strive to enter into rest. So the striving should be to rest in the sense of being at peace, the peace he gave us, and then let him strategically lead you so you're not just driven. Because driven will make you, you'll notice that. At some point you're going to crash and it's going to be harder than it has to be. So anyway, we are not mad at Granbury or Godly, even the ISDs. We're mad about it. We care about it. And we want to fight for the good stuff. And especially what we came in for. And so many people came to Godly of all places, Godly, and Granbury, because it has a reputation that's fantastic. And we know that there's underlying problems, and there is a strong, devoted force to break that down. And this is my last thing before I bring Nancy up, so you don't have to worry. Okay. The lead of the Democrat Party here in town kind of looks like a Barbie doll, blonde hair, really pretty gal. She dresses in drag. She brought HBO to come to our town. It was the breakdown of small towns. Okay, she thought that was funny and would be a good idea a couple years ago when I first got here. And she brought in drag queens on purpose and HBO and their crew. And she wanted what they wanted, from what I understand, to have it correct, is they were gonna crash our 4th of July parade, which is hometown America, USA. I have clips of her entering Paul Hyde's law office. He's the man who owns Hood County News, and he's a lawyer. And the way I met him was on the book review committee, where he was saying yes to the books I was saying no to. Okay, so she made it her point to try to find moderates and get them over to the left side. She was at the school board meeting Monday night. She was pushing for moving our school board elections to well, all of the years are election years. There's odd and even of the bigger ones and odd of the little ones. Everything she argued, they agreed with, and they did it. 6 of them did it, and 1 of them spoke out. So that's whatever. But sad that she is so bent on that. She stood in front of Decker Gym, which is a building owned by Granbury Independent School District. It's been put into the hands of United Way of Hood County to make an incubator of volunteer groups. Okay, they're looking for a base. They almost gave the building to them, and they obviously want us to do bonds to buy more buildings. And we're like, wait, if they can use that building and there's a whole campus here, how about we use that? We had a couple of situations like that. But anyway, they had a Halloween party there that was for families and children, and she showed up in her drag outfit, taking pictures of herself in front of Decker Gym. And she doesn't like it when I post those, or maybe she does. It doesn't matter to me, because I'm going to let people know this is the woman behind a lot of trouble in our town. And it is not fair, it is not funny to promote trans or trans ideology or to make it look cute or glamorous to any minor. And I'm going to stand up against that. So that's kind of what's going on here. And I just want you to know that we're like revved up, and we're intentional, and we're prayerful, and we're expecting God to give us insight and wisdom on what our next steps are. And we're very supportive of the Republican conservatives here, the Republican values as they are on the planks, the party planks, which anyone can find online. Now, Nancy is an amazing person who, kind of like me, had a problem just dropped in her lap. You weren't looking for them, right? Okay, so she wasn't looking for problems. I don't remember exactly how they found you, but they found you. And praise God, because these problems do reveal a lot. And then it has an opportunity to bring people together and get out and get something done that's for humankind, right? Leave this place better than we found it. So Nancy White, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your topic and just go for it. I really appreciate you being here.
So for those that don't know me, my favorite roles, my preferred roles are wife, mother, homeschool teacher. No, I was not looking for extra jobs. But those extra jobs did come. So I do have a television show called Overlooked Critical Matters. I also have a business that I run called Legislative Energy Action Foundation, where I've written legislation and resolutions on various topics, primarily infrastructure and grid related or national security based. I also run the security of the Texas Grid, which is a subsection of the National Coalition for Security of the Grid. You can find that at securethegrid.com. In this, we are primarily focused on ensuring that your lights stay on and that we're not being infiltrated by an enemy to America, which is what we're going to cover in this situation. So my primary focus started with a battery energy storage system. It's about 4 miles as the crow flies from my house. And in this, I learned that there were hundreds of these planned, incidentally. It's like 934, I think, for Texas, something give or take. So we're going to cover what they are, what they do, and what you should know about them, and how you can take steps to ensure safety. I don't like to just give problems, I prefer to give solutions as well. So for those that do not know what a battery energy storage system is, it's exactly what it sounds like, but it's more a band-aid for solar and wind. So solar, it doesn't matter if the wind is blowing for 24 hours in a day, you're only going to get about 7 hours of wind power from the turbines. This has to do with the inverters and how much power they can have. The solar, it doesn't matter if the sun's shining for 12 or 15 hours, again, you're only going to get about 5 hours of energy. So these have to transition from this intermittent energy to a baseload energy, and this can cause energy draw. So what's happening is these batteries, you'll get about 4 hours of power, and we're going to go into that a bit further, but they're to help supplement in between this and to try to keep it from failing, because for the last several years, all we've added is intermittent energy, and our grid is more strained now than it was 5 years ago during Winter Storm Uri, because we have not built more baseload consistent energy, but intermittent energy. So right now, a lot of people are talking about how Winter Storm Fern, the batteries helped at the morning hours with the draw, which is great, except for, actually we'll leave that and get back to that in a minute. So we're going to go ahead and start with what the battery, hold on, I did something weird, it's not transitioning on the screen, hold on a second. So this is what the inside of a battery energy storage system looks like. Let's see if it'll play.
While one unit was offline, it was safe to see inside a typical battery energy storage box.
Each one of the little silver boxes is about 22 small lithium-ion battery cells.
And how many homes could a system like this power when it's online?
A system like this could probably power about 22 homes. It's just for this one unit.
22 cells for 22 homes. Again, about 4 hours. So if you lose power for longer than 4 hours, it's not even going to save your groceries. For me, there were strong winds that went through my county, which is Van Zandt County. A lot of the information you're going to get comes from my county. But this applies statewide and actually even nationally and even internationally, and I'll explain. But there was a Jericho, or straight line wind, that came through Van Zandt County a couple of years back, and I lost power for 5.5 days. That 4 hours would not have even saved my groceries at that point. And even then, it's not even energy for my county, it's for 2 counties west of me. So it doesn't even benefit me that's 4 miles from my home. Additionally, this is actually Chris Dyer's, what I'm going to show you a video of. I really just want you to hear what it sounds having a battery storage as a neighbor. I want you to hear what it sounds like, and then I'll explain further.
So this is, make sure you can see that.
So this was Valentine's Day last year. This is retired Marine Benny, Chris Dyer. He's in Mason, Texas. He just wanted to live a peaceful life after leaving the military. And as a true Marine, liked his yard kept nice and his house looking good. And then they started building this next to his house. It's about 125 feet from his dinner table. And they caused foundation damage in the process of getting these in. He has a grandchild that he wanted to move closer to. And incidentally, nobody would buy his house, believe it or not. They don't want to live next to that, shockingly. So he's currently in litigation right now because he can't sell his house. He can't fix his home, really. And they keep saying they want to be good neighbors. Honestly, the thing that ticks me off is no Marine should have to retire to this. You don't serve your country to have someone step in a commercial build and impact your retirement. That is unpatriotic as far as I'm concerned. And one of the biggest things I hear, this one agitates me to no end, and there's a few things that'll agitate me, you'll get that in a moment, but private property rights. Nobody is arguing private property rights. I've never told anyone what to do with their land. You want to lease your land, you lease your land. To be clear, you leasing your land to a commercial industrial build does not mean they do not have to follow commercial industrial standards and codes. You can't just build whatever you want on your private property anytime you want. If so, why aren't we building nuclear sites on our property for fun? If you want a septic, you have to get a septic permit. You can't just sign a private property contract and do whatever you want with it. This isn't a chicken coop, this isn't a barn, these are toxic chemical builds that require emergency response and evacuation. We're going to go into that further, but to be clear, I'm not arguing private property rights. You want to sign a contract to know what you're signing, okay? You're not going to sign your contract to someone and assume that they no longer have to follow state law because you signed with it. You want your paycheck, you do what you need to do for whatever reasons you need to do it, but don't assume that they now don't have to follow the state law. That's not how that works. So, your rights end where mine begin. Furthermore, again, talking about that chicken coop and barn, you build it, it breaks down over time, it can naturally deteriorate and deconstruct. But there's lithium and other toxins that come from this that require cleanup. So what we're seeing a lot of is these companies are coming in with limited liability contracts and leasing your land, and then what happens if they go bankrupt or they close that LLC? Well, you can't leave these toxic chemicals, they have to be cleaned up. So what happens is you now have to clean it up, which is about 3 times the cost of the build. So if it's a $90 million build, you have to pay $270 million starting cost to deconstruct and remediate that build, okay? And when you can't afford the $270 million, your county has to clean it up, affecting everyone in your county now. And when they can't afford it, because what county has $270 million just lying around, well, don't worry, EPA will step in and clean it up. Every time. And here's the thing with EPA. EPA has been in every single one of these battery site fires that occurred in Warwick, New York. Fredericktown, Missouri had a lithium fire. Monterey Bay, California had a lithium fire. In these locations, EPA has shown up. And every single time, their sensors have failed. How many battery fires do you have to not have adequate information or repair it to sensors that work at the minimum, right? So what are they testing for? Carbon monoxide, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide. So, for example, Monterey Bay, California. Everybody knows about Moss Landing typically by this point. If you don't, I'm going to get you a QR code in a moment. You can go and look at the lab results if you want to. But in that, they showed up to Monterey Bay. They didn't test for really anything. Matter of fact, in one area, they said, everything's free and clear, you're safe. Then over here, they said, well, we didn't know to test for that. So they said you were safe while not testing for the hydrogen cyanide, the hydrogen fluoride, and things like that. Meanwhile, you have to try to keep these from going into fire, or catching runaway, catching fire and going into runaway. So if you remember, there were 22 cells, and they were stacked, one on top of the other. What runaway is this cell catches this cell on fire. As it's catching fire, it creates these toxic, thick plumes, which are these gases, the hydrogen fluoride, the hydrogen cyanide, which are deadly and require evacuation. And we're not talking for like 1 to 2 hours. It's 3 days to 2 weeks, and heaven forbid it rain because it adds oxygen to it and burns longer. Monterey Bay caught fire, had the initial fire and it reactivated 2 more times. They shut it down and they went to restart it. That was January, so this went on through February. They went to restart the site in July of 2025, and it reactivated again in the first 48 hours. Had another runaway, okay? So you cannot put water, like I said, rain makes it worse, cannot put water on lithium, because then it actually feeds it and gives it oxygen. So if you go to YouTube, there's a video out there that Elon Musk did with his EV motor, the lithium motor, where it's just spinning underwater for like 3 months on fire. And you can just watch it, it just keeps feeding it and catch it, it just stays on fire, which is insane. So the current practice is let it burn. So what happens is you can't have it go above 167 to 176. So according to the chart, it's about 131 is what it said, about 131 degrees Fahrenheit. But if it gets above 167, you're probably going to start runaway at that point. So you can exceed that in a middle box in Texas heat in July, August easily, right? So what that looks like for your first responders, and this is the training that my fire department got, is they're going to show up on site and wait outside for the experts and make sure you don't enter. Who are the experts? That's your hazmat. So hazmat, head to toe gear, cannot have your skin exposed, cannot breathe anything in, and then they're going to test the air, determine what's in the air, determine evacuation zone. Your starting evacuation is about 1.3 miles and can go further depending on wind and other factors, but your starting evacuation is usually about 1.3 miles. Outside of that, you have what's called indoor lockdown. So that means you go in your house, you do not open your windows, your doors, and you turn off your AC or any outside airflow. Yeah, in Texas. So heaven forbid it happen in July. And no, you can't let your animals out, and no, you can't go feed your cattle. And to be clear, when they evacuate you, they do not evacuate your livestock. So if you have cattle, horses, chickens, whatever it may be, they will move you, they will not move your animals. Now, for those that do not know, animals are impacted by environmental. Matter of fact, genetics is not typically what causes stillbirth in livestock, it is the environmental impacts, what they eat, drink, and breathe. So in Fredericktown, Missouri, in Monterey Bay, California, in these situations, there has been an increase in stillbirths in livestock and other animals after these plumes, okay? And so they'll determine evacuation zone and indoor lockdown. And again, these are often wrong. And I'm gonna go into that again in just a moment when we get to the studies. But you have to have head to toe gear because lithium cannot touch your skin. It is absorbed through the skin. It's not just breathe, you can't just breathe it in and then you have an issue. And we'll go into the symptoms and stuff like that, but just so you know, you have to have a hazmat response. So depending on how far your hazmat determines how long you're waiting. And again, lithium gets from normal temperature to over 3,000 degrees in under 120 seconds. So you're going from a normal temperature, about 130, 155. Once it exceeds 167, you're already starting to take off from there, and within 120 seconds, you're over 3,000 degrees, okay? Now, I'm going to show you why this is significant to Van Zandt County. When you're looking at Van Zandt County, there's this plat. This is the plat of land right here. That's the outline of it, okay? Right here is the building site. All those green are the battery storage units, okay? And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a green line that goes just inside that property line. That is a federal pipeline that carries gas, jet fuel, and diesel. Or diesel, jet fuel, and sour gas. And if you don't know, these pipes are not very, very deep, and yes, heat can impact the pressure of them, okay? And if you notice, it's not that far outside the inside of that line that those containers are barely moved over. They only have to be 25 feet on each side of that pipeline. That pipeline goes from the coast in Galveston all the way to Hammond, Indiana. It's over 1,800 miles long, this specific pipeline, okay? The cutoffs are, I think, over 32 miles away for it, like they're not right on top of it either. And right down here is the substation with all the extra transformers and things. So you have transformers, pipelines, and then you have multiple units that carry lithium batteries that can exceed thousands of degrees in minutes, and you're waiting for hazmat. Our closest hazmat is over 90 miles away to determine if you're leaving that site or not. What happens in that hour, hour and a half for them to determine, and if you're home during that time frame and you're 500 yards from it, you're already being exposed, okay? So it's kind of hard to see. It looks like a little mud pit right here. mud pit is actually part of the Cedar Creek Reservoir. Now, if you don't know what Cedar Creek Lake is, Cedar Creek Lake is a big lake in East Texas that actually is produced by Tarrant Regional Water District or Tarrant County, or more specifically, Fort Worth. It's where Fort Worth gets their water along with multiple other counties. It's about 1.3 to 1.7 million people get their water from Cedar Creek Lake. This little mud pit is actually right in the center of this runoff of this reservoir. So if you contaminate that water, what happens to those 1 plus people that have water from it, right? You can't use it. It's toxic now. Now this is a compilation of news stories from various parts of the state. I want you to see how they cover this in the news too.
That breaking news, just horrible. A massive lithium battery fire in Surprise, and at least 8 firefighters hurt in an explosion.
We want to get.
Yeah, well, Steve and Katie, this is a very active scene, and what we know now is that the injured firefighters were transported to several valley hospitals, some of them by ground, some of them by helicopter. I want to step out of the way to give you a look at what we're seeing out here, a very large response. We've seen firefighters and fire agencies from multiple agencies out here on the scene.
This not only affected fire crews who were out there, but people who were nearby in the West Valley going about their normal Friday night when all of a sudden they hear something more, a loud boom interrupting normal Friday night activities.
Yeah, we just talked to one dad actually. He was at baseball practice with his son.
I mean, it was a big boom, and the ground shook, and we all kind of stopped practice when it was going on.
Now let's get to developing news out of Monterey County. A fire burning at one of the world's largest lithium battery storage facilities, and it continues to burn more than 24 hours after it started. Residents near the Moss Landing facility, they're still out of their homes this afternoon.
I think the biggest thing we're worried about right now, Aaron, is air quality, and we're getting very few answers.
We don't have a lot of answers, and it's that thick black smoke that you see coming up from this fire over the course of the last 36 hours or so that is so concerning. It is releasing chemicals into the air. That we know. The real concern, and what we don't know a lot about, is the potential impact on people.
But the concern on the outside is what is being pushed out into the air. That's why you're seeing evacuation orders issued in this area. The fire started after 3 this afternoon, but it really grew in the evening. Around 1,500 people are under those evacuation orders. And then in addition, beyond those evacuation orders, officials as far north as Santa Cruz County are asking people to stay inside and close their doors and windows and to shut off air systems until further notice. A Monterey County supervisor spoke to just how serious the situation is.
Well, there's no way to sugarcoat it. This is, it's a disaster.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. This is a disaster. You would think that if it's going to require evacuations and ongoing fires and emergency response, you'd at least know how it might impact the people, wouldn't you? You'd at least want to know that at the very minimum. How will this impact the health and safety of my people before you build it, right? You would assume that that would be known. So I brought up Fredericktown, Missouri. There were 22 sensors by EPA at Fredericktown, Missouri. More than 12 of them failed. The ones closest to them specifically, they only released about 7 of the downwind sensors. Upwind is where they found over 3 miles of dead fish and wildlife, okay? This is Monterey Bay, California. They know that it impacted the protected areas, the sloughs and things. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and go over here. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to San Jose University, where you can get those lab reports and those lab results, because they already had a baseline because of the fact that the university was already they were already testing the protected sloughs and whatnot, and the monarch habitats. So they already had a baseline before the fire, meaning that all the tests that they did after, which by the way, these heat zones right here, here's the fire, here's your heat zones, those were all the areas that were tested for contamination. Here are all the people, and you see how far out that goes, that tested positive for symptoms. This is what lithium poisoning looks like on your skin, by the way. There were people that tested positive for lithium poisoning in their blood more than 15 miles from this location. The fire occurred in Monterey Bay, California, all the way to Prunedale. There were people that tested positive for lithium poisoning. And yes, the people will say, well, these were different batteries. These were nickel, manganese, and cobalt batteries. yet they still tested positive for lithium as well, okay? And I always find it interesting that I hear often, well, those aren't the same kind of batteries we're using now. That's old technology. This was built in 2022, 2023. It was brand new technology in 2023. By 2025, January, when this occurred, not even 3 years after it was built, it was old technology. The new technology is the lithium iron phosphate. That's already showing that will be outdated by 2027 with salt batteries. They're already looking at the replacements. So these contracts, these limited liability contracts that they're building, they're taking them for 25 to 30 years, and they have not had a single utility grade battery site make it even 5 years without failure. And the technology doesn't even last 5 years. You know, I wish I could say that was the worst part about it. Remember I mentioned national security? This is a Department of Justice document from 2023 that was signed by Senator Marco Rubio and 26 other Congress members, including Ted Cruz and a few more, obviously 26. So in this, it actually acknowledges that this company, CATL, is connected to the highest levels of CCP directly to General Secretary Xi Jinping. And it says that they have no role or supported firm in the U.S. that should be funded, and these firms have been deemed serious national security threats banned by the U.S. government. So if it's banned by the U.S. government, you would think we're not using them in America, right? Except we are. And I'm going to explain that further. If you want to watch a webinar that will be scarier than any movie you've ever seen, forget Freddy Krueger, you want to see real life fear, watch this webinar. It's by President Danger China, President Danger China. It's on CCP and the wires. This is by Sam Bettis, a retired CIA, and other experts, and they explain that China is not in our grid to watch us. They're in your phone, your Siri, your Echo, and all those things to watch you. They're in our cameras to watch you. They're in your drones to watch you and observe you. They are not in our critical infrastructure to watch you. And this is documented by the governor of Texas even. Matter of fact, if you look here, it says that the state of Texas, okay, where is it? Protecting critical infrastructure is not just about ensuring the components that infrastructure are not sourced from foreign adversaries. Common sense, right? Going to Executive Order 49, he goes on to state that the Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act is essentially what's supposed to protect us from this. And it's supposed to protect our critical infrastructure where they want to do real-world harm that directly threatens Texans, as Texas contains a significant amount of the United States military bases. For the record, they are documented for civilian military purposes, okay? So they're not just using military versus military, they're using we the people, the civilians, for part of their military plan, hence the real-world harm. So the Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act was amended in the 89th legislation. So I told you that I worked on the legislative priority, or at least my company helped with legislation and resolutions. So I worked on the State Executive Committee with the legislative priority for security of the grid. We can proudly claim that we got 11 bills across the finish line, 3 of which I am using right now that went into effect September 1st. One of those was the amended Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act. Originally, it stated that you could not have investors or owners from China, Iran, Russia, or North Korea. It was amended in the 89th legislation and went into effect September 1st, stating that you could not have components or technology from there either in your critical infrastructure, right? The grid being a critical infrastructure, your power sources being a critical infrastructure. Winter Storm Uri proved to us we can't live without power. Meanwhile, part of this that determines this is the companies that apply for energy have to provide what's called an attestation, saying, do you have these components, yes or no? Currently, ERCOT has submitted an investigation to the Public Utility Commission, who is actively investigating more than 700 missing attestations for the state of Texas. And it was just updated on the 13th, which I think is interesting, how many lines of traffic were updated, 9 total, on the 13th, which was just after my county passed a moratorium on these. And I will explain further, but they are currently missing more than 700 letters saying they have these Chinese foreign components, okay? Another thing that I hear often is Senate Bill 17. If you follow the legislative session, Senate Bill 17 kept China off of our land. Partially true. It keeps them from buying more farmland. It didn't take away the land they own. And what about the cities? This is in Dallas County. This company is named Lithium. They are a CCP-linked company. They are using engineers from Contemporary Amprex Technology, or CATL, to build their batteries. So what we're seeing is these are made in America because they're in Dallas, right? They're American produced. So they're using a Chinese company, which Chinese engineers that are shipping their battery cells from Beijing to build them here IKEA style. But now it's American made, right? Because it's on American soil. So, right here, on January 26th, the governor added CATL to the prohibited technology list for the state. Okay? Additionally, the Department of War also has this company on a prohibited technology list. It's 1260H. So the Department of War, the highest level of national security ranking, says they are a threat for civilian military purposes. And then on top of that, our governor says they are a threat for CCP connections. So this, they stop them for military uses and for state uses. But why aren't they protecting the civilian side? We the people, we're allowing these private-public partnerships. The private part being they're doing these leases on your land, and we're not stopping a CCP company because it's not a direct connection, there's a substation in between. But there's a domino effect that goes into this. So, how do you know if there's this component in your build, right? Well, the fire codes. There are state fire codes. Now this is something I find interesting. You have federal law, you have state law, and then you have local law, okay? Very basic steps, right? Federal law supersedes state, state supersedes local. The state fire marshal has adopted state statutes for fire standards and codes, right? These are the baseline of what you have to follow. They give additional parameters for you to add more. So for example, under Chapter 233 of the Fire Standards and Codes, it says the authority having jurisdiction in a county is the county commissioner court. The authority having jurisdiction in an incorporated area is the city council, right? Pretty basic. Now, your county commissioner court can hire an auditor to do their taxes, but they're still responsible for getting the taxes done. Your county commissioner court can hire a road crew, but they're still responsible for making sure it's done. They can choose to hire a fire marshal, but they're still responsible for citizen safety and making sure the state law is being followed. And I keep hearing, well, where does it say they have to? The part that says you're the authority, that part right there says you are the authority, it is your responsibility for citizen safety. If a commercial build wants to come in and you're not ensuring citizen safety, you're automatically liable because your job is to make sure the health and safety and welfare of your people are accounted for. And if they sign a contract, that doesn't mean they can build whatever they want and your people can just be unsafe. You have to ensure citizen safety. And in that, one of the things they have to ask for is the UL 9540 test. It tells you, does it stay within the container? What is the response, right? In that is how we learned that we have a CATL battery in Little Old Van Zandt County. Okay? This is your proof. Because of this proof, I was able to open an investigation in the Texas Attorney General's office. Because I had all the documents that I listed before, the newly amended law, that proof, and I was able to activate this investigation with the Attorney General. Okay? Because of that, my county was able to pass a moratorium. Let me explain. Right here, I'm just going to read it because you need to hear it. So, the inclusion of cattle on this prohibited technology list means that the use of cattle batteries, components, or related technology in any Texas critical infrastructure project, including battery energy storage systems, would constitute a direct violation of Governor Abbott's prohibition and the associated state policies aimed at protecting against CCP-linked batteries. Now, at the back of the room, you will find a copy of our moratorium And this particular part was from Joseph Wise. Joseph Wise is a Hall of Fame internationally recognized cyber expert who ran the Electric Power Research Institute for over 15 years. He's also a colleague of mine. And you will also find a second letter in there from Mike Swearingen, who wrote Operational Cybersecurity Technology Patents. They supported our moratorium because the reality is two parts. The Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act says that they can be there as long as they don't operate outside of maintenance and warranty. The argument and understanding being, when is there ever a time that you can trust CCP to only do it for that, right? And he goes on to explain right here that, more than 90% of the supply chain comes from CATL, and that it's a global battery energy storage deployment and the resulting risk of PRC influence and exploitation of U.S. energy infrastructure. And this is for military civil fusion strategy. Again, why are we not protecting the civilian side? We're doing military bases for federal. We're doing state companies, state infrastructure, but the loophole, the part that they didn't cover, is we allow these public-private partnerships. The state infrastructure is public, but then they allow ERCOT to operate it privately, proprietary. And yet, they're missing more than 700 of these documents that are supposed to ensure that this isn't happening right now. So our moratorium is to put a halt on 17 builds. We have 9 batteries, 7 solar, and 1 wind planned for our county, our little bitty Van Zandt County that nobody's probably really heard of.
I know where it is.
It's a good little place. We got known for
South of Silver Springs. I had 2 places there.
Yes, sir. And we're known for our hay.
Yeah.
We're known as one of the hay capitals of Northeast Texas.
Yeah.
We have our land, and it's being overran with these commercial industrial builds. So, we did not have a fire marshal. Everybody said, well, we don't have a fire marshal. What do we do? Write the letter yourself. It's still your responsibility. That first ever letter that was written and sent to the company asking if they're following fire standards and codes, that was written by my commissioner. My commissioner wrote it up and sent it to the company saying, are you following the laws? In that interim, waiting for the response, we hired a fire marshal. He sent a letter in January, and February, and March, and now the batteries were set to be here in 2 weeks, and they still had for 4 months not shown us that they could follow the state laws. 4 months, okay? We're now less than 2 weeks out, so my county passed a resolution saying that they need to follow fire standards and codes, common sense, right? And they put a restraining order against the batteries. They could do anything else, but they could not bring batteries into our county until they provided us evidence that they were following state statutes for fire standards and codes. Common sense, right? 10 months later, they were no closer to getting those batteries than they were when it was in place April 2025. Last week, my county, with these documents you see listed here, the Attorney General's investigation, and the Governor's Prohibited Technology list, we passed a moratorium that said until the Attorney General completes his investigation, no more movement. We're done. We have already used a year of resources asking them one project to follow state laws. We have 17 planned. We can't take on 16 more when we can't even get one to follow the state laws or show that they can at the very least. By the way, this QR code will also take you to that link to get the moratorium and those documents. But like I said, they're in the back too. So all that to say, half the battle is knowing. The other half is doing. So people always ask, well, what can I do? The biggest thing that you can do is tell more people. Because again, half the battle is knowing. Too many people have no clue what is going into their backyard. Y'all are finding out about 8 data centers going into your county. I guarantee the majority of those will have these battery storage systems. And the reality is, if Winter Storm Uri showed us that we can't operate without power, why would we try to get through a winter relying on an enemy for power? Especially if we're in conflict with them. If they would want to hurt us, don't you think they would want to hurt us at the time we need it the most and we can't leave our houses? Additionally, Winter Storm Fern, solar, wind, and batteries, it's a $100+ billion industry. During Winter Storm Fern and Winter Storm Uri, we got less than 10% of energy in this industry. $100+ billion system that we pay for, we the people, through our taxes and these rates and all these other things, yet we can't even get 10% of energy at the time we need it the most. okay? So with that said, I know, I was trying to get it out there really quickly, I was all over the place, so I'm sure it was kind of chaotic. But with that said, it was a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions?
Why haven't we said that you can't even come to the state? You can't have such a facility here. Why do we not?
Money.
It's all about.
So Biden, first and foremost, so why are they still allowed here? Well, money. So like, okay, here's a prime example. The environmental social governance aspect, we need to meet these environmental goals, these net zero goals. They're not even our goals. Those are United Nations goals. Yeah, we're still pushing for them. Yet in Davos recently, you had an engineer actually say, or a scientist actually say, why are we making ourselves subservient to China? Because the reality is, that market, they have the monopoly on it. Meaning that you can't just go, oh, I don't want your battery, we're gonna go get it somewhere else at these 90% plus, because it doesn't exist. So for us to meet net zero, we have to have the batteries. For us to have the batteries, we have to rely on China. Why are we making ourselves subservient to China? Going a step further, those solar and wind, I talked about those inverters, those are Chinese. The majority, if not all of those, are Chinese as well. Why are we pushing for an industry that doesn't meet the physics of our grid, for one, and it doesn't provide even a day full of energy? Are we living in a world where we only need a third of the day of energy? No, it doesn't make sense why we're doing it. We're consuming over 3 million acres of Texas land for not even a third of a day of energy. Not even 10% of the energy at the time we need it the most. It doesn't make sense at all. And everybody's like, well, China's leading the world in net zero energy. No, they have 2 coal plants going active a week. They have more nuclear than all of us. They're not.
I think Trump understands that because he was talking about the coal. I've heard him.
Yes, he absolutely understands the lunacy of this entire industry. And unfortunately, Biden amended the tax codes in 2023 to where they can cash in on that tax equity up to 6 times, which means that they can cash in up to 6 times to take a payout before they even have it built and operational. You want to know why the Inflation Reduction Act got above the trillion so quickly? There you go. It doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, we're relying on that instead of going through and building what's comparable to our grid.
Okay, I think you're doing fantastic, by the way. It's very clear, it's detailed, and it is complicated too. Are you following Hood County? Have you
Yes.
been aware?
I spent an hour and a half on the phone today, by the way, with y'all's county attorney and your commissioner.
Which
one?
Which
Nanette's trying really hard.
Nanette is outstanding.
She is doing a good job.
Standing alone.
She's our first female commissioner in the county ever, and she has been so detailed and on it and available and the public and the whole thing. Conservative.
I'm trying to understand Andrews. Maybe y'all can explain this to me. Andrews is a prior firefighter, okay? And he's afraid to enforce fire standards and codes for the state because of these mom and pop shops. He literally said in commissioner court essentially that he was afraid to follow state law. Can y'all make that make sense for me? Meanwhile, aren't the majority of these built in his precinct? Is my understanding? So he's a prior firefighter, he understands fire codes and standards, but he's afraid to enforce the law while they're in his jurisdiction. That sounds like a liability to me, right? Just my thought. But Nanette's doing a fantastic job. I'll throw that out there.
Have you been able to dig out?
You want me to call Kevin real quick and get him on the phone?
Yeah, can you explain what you're doing?
Can you, has anyone discovered the money behind all this? Like, because we are baffled at why some of our.
BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ken Paxton has an active lawsuit against BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard for market manipulation to push these energy builds above baseload energy.
But what's in it for the commissioners that
Or the
seems to be
school board.
both?
In your specific jurisdiction?
Yeah, why would our,
So I'm gonna explain
conservative
this.
commissioners?
Yeah.
Because we were a 3-2 board, now it's like, anyway, so.
I'm going to explain it. So in every county, there are a few things that I see, okay? Our county is going to get X amount of money in property tax, and we need this to grow our county, okay? Let me explain something. If your county is talking about how much revenue or taxes they're going to get from something, but they're not enforcing fire standards and codes that are state law, what that is called is quid pro quo. It may not be cash in hand, but if you get a new fire truck and you're getting X amount of taxes and you're not going to ensure safety, That's a form of a bribe to not verify safety and welfare, okay? So the biggest thing I hear is there's nothing we can do. And they're getting this information from the Texas Association of Counties. Let me explain something. TAC is paid based off of what your county revenue is. They are a nonprofit that can charge your entities based off of how much your county revenue is. Meaning that when your county revenue goes up a few million for a build and a few more million for another build and you have 17 of them, that's a lot of money that they can now charge your county. Meanwhile, they're telling your county officials, well, all you can do is you can control them with an abatement. I'm sorry, you can control someone by not charging them taxes?
Exactly. I don't understand this abatement thing.
It doesn't make any sense.
How does the county benefit? How do the citizens?
It's not going to be that many jobs anyway.
Benefit.
No, all it is construction costs. I actually had a company in London ask me, what's your biggest opposition? Locally, the biggest opposition are the construction workers. Because the only people really paid from this are the construction workers. Meanwhile, most of those are H-1B. They're not even local. Right. They're brought in.
Right.
So those aren't even relative to the situation.
Right.
So really there's none, but it's giving jobs, right? It's giving your county revenue, right? Except for it's not benefiting you directly. Yes, sir.
So Kevin Andrews, recently I just happened to run into him in the hall at the county office, and he felt compelled to explain to me why he's for the data centers. And one of the things he told me was, he said this abatement is used, these restrictions and these limitations on them are strictly enforced. If they don't follow these rules, then they lose the abatement. That was one of his justifications for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
that doesn't stop them. My county has not given a single abatement. We have not given not one. They're still moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, they were until the moratorium.
Yeah.
We didn't offer abatements. We didn't restrict them. Matter of fact, let me tell you a story. My commissioner went into TAC to figure out what they were going to say. The moment they said there was nothing you can do, he stood up, and as he's walking out, he heard the guy go, well, I guess the meeting's over. Yeah, don't tell me there's nothing we can do. Clearly, time and time again, Baghdad County's proven that wrong. There's nothing you can do, yet we requested proof of fire code, didn't get it, we put a restraining order. There's nothing you can do, yet we have a moratorium against 17 now. TAC is benefiting financially from you doing nothing because your county revenue is going up. And even if you get a tax abatement, it's still going up because it's only a percentage, it's not the entirety, right? So it's still going up and they're still benefiting. You can't control someone with a tax abatement. So Nacogdoches County, okay? Nacogdoches, Texas, that's known for its trees. They built a biomass site there. They were gonna have a 10-year tax abatement. On the 9th year, that company sold their land to the city of Austin. When a city or government owns land, there's no taxes paid on it. Meaning that just when they were getting close to getting their full revenue that they're supposed to get, they were never going to get it anymore. Because of that, Nacogdoches is not giving abatements, yet they have a 3,000 plus acre solar farm going in with their trees getting cut down. I was there on Tuesday. You can look at the graph and you can see where the solar field sits right on top of Nacogdoches Lake. I asked the guy, do you have a floodplain permit? He goes, it's not in a floodplain. You can see how it touches right up like within 50 to, we'll say 100 feet of that lake. You're telling me that lake never floods ever? No.
Have you talked with Kevin live?
Oh, I've been to y'all's commissioner court like 4 or 5 times,
Have
yeah.
you talked like take Kevin to lunch type of thing?
No.
Would that be helpful?
To me, no.
No. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if y'all want to try.
Maybe some more knowledge in his little back pocket.
So are you fighting that at the floodplain level? Is that what they're doing? Well, you've got to give us documentation.
The county, there are people.
You did fire. One of your fire codes in
Yes, you can argue that. As a matter of fact, in Nacogdoches, I know one of the residents went to the county to require a cease and desist because they didn't have that permit. So I do know that they are fighting from that angle too.
Okay.
And then you also need air permits because keep in mind plumes go up.
Yes.
And then none of them are getting those from TCEQ either. And they're not requiring it either.
I was going to say, so he was kind of an impromptu conversation. I went there for something else, but he saw me in the hall and he pulled me aside because he felt compelled because he sees the stuff I post online to tell me to justify this. He told me he is in favor of the data center on conservative principle because he believes private property rights are a genuine constitutional conservative principle. He said the moratorium's wrong. He says what none of these people here realize is if they push this moratorium, if they stop these data centers, if they expand the subchapter K, if they expand the power of the commissioner's court to stop the data centers, he said a future commissioner's court that's going to be of a more liberal makeup than the one we got now is going to use that to hurt private property owners in this county. He said on constitutional principle, he says you have to respect private property rights, even if it's a greedy corporation. He said that's the constitutional conservative thing to do. You know, he also told me, he said some of the other commissioner, he said Dave Eagle, he specifically mentions Dave has made this an issue for his reelection. Dave's opposed, he knows it's constitutionally wrong to oppose this data center, but he's doing it to get real. That was his, he basically tried to tell me that it's all principle and he genuinely, sincerely believes the data center should be here because it brings money. It doesn't cost the county any, it's not going to require new police officers to be on the street. It's not going to require new water. He tried to tell me it actually helps the water, not hurt the water. He tried to, I mean, he gave me 3 principles. He said, this is on constitutional principle. We should allow the data center. He said, you know,
Okay.
I just listened to what he said. I asked him, one of the questions I asked him, I said, do you understand Mitchell Bend, the data center out there has destroyed the environment. There's people that got tinnitus, there's people that got chronic health illness because of, he said, I understand that was bad. He said, that one's wrong. He said, we should try to get a noise ordinance from the state to stop what's happening in Mitchell Bend. Is what his solution that was. I said, but do you understand nobody trusts the county government here to manage the construction of these data centers when they mishandled the Mitchell Bend one?
But they've already passed them, right?
Let's talk Constitution for a second, right? Let's talk Constitution. Our moratorium is based off of the Constitution. Being constitutional is to be good stewards of the land, included, okay? Your rights end where mine begin. You cannot infringe on my rights because you have personal property. That doesn't mean that you get to endanger me for it. The statutes exist to protect the people around you. No one's infringing on your right to sign that contract. That doesn't excuse you from endangering of a 1.3 mile radius. That doesn't make it acceptable. Additionally, Constitution, let me explain something. The Constitution, and I know you know this, I don't have to preach it to you, but I do think people need to hear this. What is the Constitution's job? The Constitution isn't for me to control you. The Constitution is for me to control the government, all of us, okay? So when the government's saying it's unconstitutional, that's not for you to determine. We determine what is unconstitutional. Your job is to ensure that you're good stewards of the land and we are safe. So when your commissioner is saying it's unconstitutional, clearly you don't understand what your job is, because when we're talking about the Constitution, your job is to serve me and make sure my home is safe, okay? I get so tired of people talking about the Constitution because you get blocked on Facebook and that's unconstitutional, in violation of my freedom of speech. No, it's not. The Constitution doesn't give a blanket across the entire nation. The job of the Constitution is for us to control government. So when the government is saying that they're not doing a job for you because it's unconstitutional, no, you're not doing the job because it's greed. Don't mix the two, because in it, the Commissioner's Court has a constitutional duty for citizen safety and welfare as established by what we allow to get passed, okay? Yes, we obviously have a tyrannical government, and yes, we need a clean house. There's no doubt about that. We do need to conserve. We need to conserve water. We need to conserve land. We need to conserve money. All these things. There is nothing in this that is conservative because you're not conserving. You're not conserving energy. You're not conserving water. You're not conserving safety. It's unconstitutional to infringe on my rights just because he wants to build something. If he wants to build a nuclear bomb, that doesn't make it acceptable. You can't infringe on my safety. There's a reason these laws exist. So,
why not put those things out, way out in the West Texas and unpopulated areas or something?
They're there too.
They have to have access to power.
Well, you know, John Cornyn was interviewed a couple weeks ago on a TV interview, and John Cornyn said he took credit for it. He said because of the work that we did, he said he took credit for the data center in Amarillo and the data center in Abilene. He said because of the foreign investment that he caused to come to Texas. Of course, apparently he's oblivious to the fact that the vast majority of people don't want the data centers here. I heard the one in Abilene is a disaster. I've heard it's been a complete disaster for the people in Abilene. Now, Kevin Andrews told me he went and toured the one in Irving, And he said, it's quiet as a, he showed me a little video on his phone. He said, look, it's quiet. The one in Irving is really quiet, really well done. He says, you don't have these problems with the one. And then he said he heard another one in Dallas. He said, look, it's quiet. He showed me a little video on his phone. He said, it's all quiet. And so,
okay, so go to the one in your precinct and stand next to it and show me where it's quiet, because I know it's not.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
so
what
I'm glad that that's the case with Abilene. I'm glad that's the case with Dallas or wherever it is, or Irving, wherever. I'm glad that that's the case for them. What about in your precinct? Because that's the reality. You can show me your video from an hour away. I can drive into your specific jurisdiction and do another video that contradicts your two. And this is your direct conflict. So he can show you all day long, but in his own area, he's full of it.
Well, of course, I brought up the Mitchell-Den situation. He goes, what we need is the legislature to give the county commissioners the authority to do a noise restriction, noise reduction for the situation in Mitchell-Den.
We do need to give local government back control. Actually, matter of fact, that control was taken in 2011 by Rick Perry, in case you didn't know, in a lot of the energy sectors. So I 100% agree we need to give control back to local government. Matter of fact, my company, Leaf, or no, actually we're doing it under the Secure the Texas Great Coalition. We were just discussing that in our meeting on Tuesday. We already have 2 resolutions. By the way, when you go to your precinct conventions, please take my resolutions for security at the grid.
Are they back here?
I can get them to you. If you'll take those, but one of the ones we're working on, a 3rd resolution, is to bring local governance back. Because they've taken away the ability for us to say no. So like even right now, people are like, well, why the moratorium? Why not just no? Because the state took away that authority. They have to say no. The moratorium is to halt as the state investigates because they have to be the ones to say no. And for those that don't know, the way the Lone Star Law is written is the Attorney General is the investigating agency. Whenever it's confirmed there's a national security threat, they actually activate the Department of War into Texas. Because that is the enforcing agency for national security threats. And that's actually a very interesting piece because Department of War is not going to just be like, oh, no, you're fine. So when you read these letters in here, they explain how. Those letters, everybody's like, how did you pass the moratorium with that opinion paper from 2023, right? That Bettencourt and Patterson would have mentioned, right? Well, because that opinion paper said you can't pass a broad moratorium. You can't do it without justification. You can't just say you don't want to build because the state took away that right. We're not passing a broad moratorium. We're saying for safety and health of the people, we're doing a pause until the Attorney General says we're safe. That's what we're doing. They had these 2 documents when you read them 2 weeks before we passed the moratorium. Don't you think the Attorney General would have stopped us before the vote if it was illegal? How about the fact that the Lieutenant Governor, who's the most powerful person in the state of Texas, he had that a week before. I talked to him face to face the Friday before our vote. He liked it so much and was so proud of what Van Zandt County was doing while he was at our gala, he donated $5,000 to our club. Don't you think he would have stopped it before the vote? He knew about it, they both did. Because the reality is, there's not really a situation where the Attorney General of Texas doesn't support someone supporting him. Okay? And even if after the election he decides to pull it, don't you think it'd be more questionable we can prove they had it before and for several weeks after and wait until after the election? That would be a bit hinky, don't you think? So there's a lot of things that go into this that people don't know what they don't know. So when Bettencourt and Patterson are saying we're breaking the law, they have no clue what they're talking about. And I think it's even more comical that we're listening to someone like Jared Patterson, who, by the way, the President of the United States has told the Texas GOP, you can't censor, and yet Patterson was one of the people that still got censored, is how bad of a state representative he was. Why would we listen?
One of the questions I asked Kevin Andrews said, don't you think it's disingenuous of Bettencourt down in Houston to tell people in Hood County what we need to be doing up here when he lives down in? And Kevin Andrews said, well, the problem is Bettencourt's district is the headquarters of NRG, which is the company that, he said that's why Bettencourt felt compelled to jump in and comment on this.
That's not why Bettencourt felt compelled. Bettencourt felt compelled because he works his tax equity. What did I say about that tax code again? They get a kickback every time they close on that too. That's why Bettencourt stepped in. It's not even a new information that in the 89th legislation he impacted some of those bills for tax purposes. Patterson owns Third Coast Bank. You don't think that they're invested in these? It's a direct conflict of interest for them to even step in, period, the end. So those are the parts people aren't talking about.
So this video, for
Mhm.
example,
Yeah.
would be great to get in our commissioners' hands to watch
Oh yeah.
for education reasons, because they just genuinely may not know what they don't know, or they may not know, or
I've been to your commissioner court enough times that they know. They know. And you could try again. I encourage you to try again.
I'm just always hoping that, you know, that Kevin has genuinely come across as a very concerning person, and lately has made some different decisions, and so do we need to educate him more?
He
Or
was gonna bring Amazon in to give the tax statements. And
Yeah.
we're like,
Oh, yeah,
no.
Amazon, yeah, so that's a different deal. But I hear you, I mean, but.
I'm not so convinced and sold that it's as innocent as that in your county.
Okay.
Just simply because, again, I've been in your commissioner court. I know for a fact that your commissioner court has talked to my commissioner, my fire marshal. My fire marshal even gave your fire marshal a permitting schedule and like fee schedule. We have given them everything to do it. And matter of fact, in that hour and a half long conversation, they're still not doing it a year later. So like if they're gonna start here, and they're not starting there, so they know what to do. Why aren't you doing it? They're wanting to skip straight to moratorium without any of the proper steps. You can't skip steps. For the context, I'm gonna give you some ideas. I have the Department of War, Department of Justice, the Select Committee on CCP documents. I have the governor's documents, I have the lieutenant governor's documents, I have the attorney general's investigation, and those two signed expert letters. I have 8 irrefutable documents saying this is a threat, and we barely got the moratorium, okay? If you do not even have your fire code started, and I have these 8, you can't leap before you start walking in the right direction. Stop fighting at people and start doing. Now, let me explain something. You do have other options. If your commissioner court is not following proper steps, what can you do? Well, the way the authority having jurisdiction works is they can be charged with negligence, willful negligence, or malfeasance, which can go up to a felony in some cases, right? So you can actually file charges potentially over the fact that they can't verify that they're following state laws of citizen health and safety. You can go at them at the aspect that they're not ensuring that you are safe. There are other ways around the fact that if your commissioner court won't do it, you put their feet to the fire. It's more expensive, but it's still cheaper than trying to file against a data center that has $100+ billion, or trying to file against a battery company that has hundreds of millions of dollars. Your commissioner court doesn't have that. And no, you don't want to go that route. You're not trying to take money from them. You're trying to make sure that they follow state law. And that's all you're trying to hold their feet to the fire to do. Because if they're not going to listen to everybody that shows up, what are you going to have to do? Well, you can file a consumer complaint with the Texas Attorney General's office for the fact that they're not providing evidence that they're following it.
Where do all these data centers plans go after they're done?
Like the end of life of it? Like how do they get
obsolete?
The ocean or something?
So technically there are no end of life for these. Lithium has, like the way they recycle. They're recycled. They do not have an end of life. You can't just put them in the ground and all these other things. So they technically have no end of life. And Lordy, I hope they don't put them in the ocean, just for the record. That's a horrible idea. Not to say that they're not doing it. Matter of fact, they're building battery storage on top of ocean areas, which is insane whenever you know that it actually causes, you can't have water on it, and you can't have this damage, and heaven forbid a typhoon or something comes through, and now you have a flammable ocean. So, but that's actually happening in New York. Oh, and these evacuation areas, 1.3 miles, Austin County, for example, Austin County, Texas, not Austin the city, Austin the county, they have one being a battery storage site being built right next to the prison. How are you going to evacuate the prisons? I talked to the judge, and the judge was like, what do I just open the door and say, go free? How are you going to evacuate all these prisoners whenever there's a battery fire that requires evacuation?
Who's paying the bill?
Exactly. And then on top of that, your fire response goes out. 99.999% of the time, they have to completely destroy the gear that they went out in. If it's a volunteer fire department that works off of grants and very minimal county money, who's replacing that gear? And even then, we the people, even if it's an ESD, have to refund and buy the new gear. They have to destroy it because it's got these toxic chemicals on it. And I say all but that 0.001 because I haven't seen an incident yet, but it doesn't say it doesn't exist.
And there's no liability against the battery company.
No.
Have you spoken? There were 22 people that spoke at the last commissioner's court that I attended.
For the data centers, I was not there for that.
Could you be?
I can always attend again.
It's Tuesday.
Oh, this coming? No, I gotta be in Upton, Texas.
Because
so it's 6.5 hours away for me.
It isn't. The most important part isn't that the commissioners hear you. It's that the rest of the public hears you, and what your last portion here about what we can do as citizens if our commissioners are not doing their jobs of protecting us and demanding these things and putting a moratorium in place until the fire
or a restraining order or a cease and desist, anything.
But the rest of the public needs to hear that
Since you
we.
can't be there, would you run through that one more time? I know you did it well, and I've got it. Would you? Okay. Do it again and tell Hood County what you think we should do.
Okay. So, just tell the cameras, I guess. So in that situation, so if your county commissioner court is not following state laws, state standards, and ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, you essentially have two options. One, you can file a complaint with the Attorney General's office and the fact that they're not doing their duties of citizen safety, or you can try to file charges against them for under Chapter 352 and 233, where it says that they are the authority having jurisdiction in Texas Local Government Code, stating that they are liable because they are the authority, and that liability consists of negligence, willful negligence, and malfeasance for not properly enforcing state law. And citizen safety is non-negotiable.
Okay, perfect.
I'll share it right with Barb.
Because there were over, I would say, over 200 people at the last.
Wall.
I heard it was a lot of
I
people.
was standing room only. I was standing against the wall.
Yeah, I heard it was a lot of people.
And it was so educational for the rest of us to have these speakers who have done their homework, such as yourself, and understand the real issues here. That's education is the best. Put some light on it, and then I know that everyone walked out of there confused about what just happened here. Did it pass? Did we get a moratorium? Did we not get a moratorium? What is going on? No, they just rescheduled another meeting now for Tuesday. And we need to be able to feel like it's just not over. We've got to accept this thing that's going in, these two things right here close by. I heard that it's 2 miles from city center and the high school.
And you have it near the water too, I believe. Yeah, you have it in a lot of areas.
Elementary schools, nursing homes, high school.
Yep.
Right up against
hospital.
Someone's home.
And you know what? Another thing that we're seeing is proximity to the schools. Remember, the largest part of property tax is school tax. So the schools are saying, well, we need this money. They always need more money. You notice that? It always goes to like the higher up superintendents and not the children. They always need more money.
They're admin heavy. They're top heavy.
Yeah, and it should be. So the strongest part of the totem pole is the base. Okay? Not the top, the base. Goes from the bottom up. There's a reason that we the people rule the government. Okay? All the way up. Because we are the core of it. Our children are the core of it. Not the admins who almost never see the kids. So they shouldn't be receiving $150,000 to $200,000 a year when our teachers are only getting about $25,000 to $40,000.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. They're the ones in the room with 25 to 30 kids a day, trying to keep them in order and also educate them at the same time, not paid through the summer, but only during this time, trying to spare it out as much as they can. Well, that guy's over here driving a Corvette at $200,000 a year who never almost sees a kid.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well,
We have officials that are going for election right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hot topic. I guess they were busy tonight.
Mm. Well,
I mean, that's what we fight.
yeah.
I mean, we have
Right.
very good friends that are right in the thick of getting reelected, and this is a hot topic, and they could have had all this knowledge. And
Meanwhile,
I
my
guess
commissioner, who's up for re-election
they were
and has 3 Democrats and 2 other Republican opponents, called me after I talked to your commissioner and said, how'd it go?
Huh.
He's up for re-election. He's getting called left and right. If they want to, they will. Okay? I don't want to hear that you're up for re-election when you can't even ensure citizen safety because you're too afraid it's going to look bad. I don't care how you look. I want to know my kids are safe. I want to know my land's not about being toxic at that point. I don't care about your election, and why would I elect you whenever you can't even show up when it comes to safety and education? In all areas, for the children, for our land, for our water, for the future of these generations. And back to what Monica opened with, and this is a key point for me. When you're talking about it being an obstacle course marathon, being a patriot and a constitutional conservative, our job was always to be involved and will be for our generation and the next generation. Reagan said we must teach the next generation to be free. That was directly from Reagan. That wasn't for you and me. That's because we have a duty for our government. And because that puppy dog video and that cat video was so cute, so fun, we don't want to deal with that. That's too stressful. You think I want to be 2 hours away from my kids right now? No. I want to be home with my husband, who I quite like, actually. You know? I want to be living in my land right now. It's not about me, though, because if it was just about me, I would have been done that moratorium passed, because I guarantee you it's probably not going to move much further from there. Okay? But it's not about me, because at the end of the day, it's about the future for my kids, and I want to set a precedent. And quite frankly, we have a tyrannical government. We need to start repealing and getting back centered. Because the reality is, when you're looking at things like this Epstein situation, if our government's going to collapse from taking down pedophiles, it needs to collapse. Period. The end. If our government doesn't want us to say, no, you can't have this toxic build here, it needs to go anyways. What that's called is a tyrannical government. We are closer to Britain now that we left 250 years ago than we were ever meant to be. We have to correct course. So we show up and we educate. Because too many people don't even understand what the Constitution stands for. I got kicked off this, my First Amendment rights are violated. If I block you on Facebook, I didn't violate your rights. You have no clue what your rights are, apparently. Yet you want to argue with me? People like, you told me I couldn't show up, you violated my First Amendment rights. No, that's not what the Constitution does. Understand your government. And far too many people don't these days. I want a whole tirade there, but I have feelings about it.
Can you speak to the idea of school districts and the money involved? Because our city took 2,000 acres and annexed it into the city. So are you saying that because they did that, whatever they do with it is going to benefit the school district because of taxes? It would have been the county.
But they gave them a tax abatement.
Yeah.
They're still getting paid a lot, even with the tax abatement. They're not getting paid the full amount, but they're still getting paid.
Because I'm noticing donations that go to the school
Uh-huh.
are energy this, Mara this, Bitcoin.
Yes.
I've seen all kinds of donations, giving kids shoes, all kids shoes, preschool.
Well, because they're here for you. They're good neighbors,
These
right?
even
Right.
aren't,
It's always
I don't
free.
even recognize the company names, all these different names,
No.
they've got a lot of names.
I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of them were in Delaware. Delaware is one of the few places you can go and they can circumvent the majority of commercial law. And a lot of their LLCs are censored from there. Go ahead. I know you want to.
I was just going to add, when you brought that up, if you haven't seen the film, the movie Dark Waters,
Oh, that'll take you off.
the DuPont poisoning in Parkersburg,
Yeah.
West Virginia, it's exactly what she's talking about. DuPont did that. They had brainwashed everybody, giving money here, giving money there, paying for this, paying for that, recycling bins here, recycling bins there. So the community all surrounded DuPont. So when that exploded, nobody wanted to believe that DuPont would be that evil, when in reality it was. So that goes exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. They're your friends. They're good neighbors.
It's quid pro,
Quid pro quo.
so it's benefits that aren't necessarily cash.
I do this, you do that.
Right, it's back scratching big time.
Yeah, quid pro quo. Well, thank y'all so much for having me.
Well, that was wonderful.
So I am gonna share that information Yes, and I just want to,
Share it.
absolutely, thank you all for being here tonight. I definitely want to grow our influence and our impact here as True Texas Project Patriots and support True Texas is not a Republican group, by the way. It leans that way because all of its values align. It tends to be a stricter Republican group, if you want to put it that way, in those loose terms. So if you're watching and you want to volunteer, I've got my list here of everything we need. We need the volunteers. We need the people who can be faithful and come to our meetings. And we want to get to know more people. We want relationship. We want to get to know each other. We want to link arms. And we want to work to keep our Granbury, the Granbury that we imagined we were coming to. And that would mean better moral values all throughout the city for our students and our children. And it also means protection and safety from big corporations coming in and damaging or destroying the health and safety of the people. So Jim, would you just close us out in prayer?
Sure.
And then we'll be on our way.
Lord, we just thank you for this evening. We thank you for enlightening us. Thank you for what was the information, and we just thank you, Father God, that we will have your instant wisdom on how to present this and to who to present to, and to continue to walk this out. So, Lord, we thank you very much for our time tonight. We ask that you would bless it, and that you would give each and every one of us instant wisdom, strength, understanding, and a boldness that you would go before us, and that you would be with us, and that we would walk out what needs to be walked out, and that people would be, minds would be opened to hear the information, and we just thank you for that. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Okay.